Recently, I had the pleasure of meeting Bill and Margaret. They have a beautiful Bernese mountain dog named Lily, and they have a beautiful husky named Atka. Now, Atka's blind, and I met them here camping. And well, I wanted to know, what is it like camping with a dog that's blind? Do you need special equipment? Are there special considerations? Can she even go hiking with you? And how did it happen? How did she become blind? So I hope you'll join me and we'll hear about Atka's story. So tell us a little bit about how you found Atka and what were your thoughts when you thought about adopting her?
Okay, so Atka was put up for adoption by a rescue group. And the story behind her is that a breeder had taken her into the veterinarian to have her euthanized because she had glaucoma. And there happened to be a rescue group at the veterinarian. And so instead of her being euthanized, she was turned over to the rescue group. Later at an adoption event, we happened to see Atka there, and I was immediately taken with her, but I never dreamed that we would actually get her because several months passed between when we saw Atka and when we finally adopted her.
Really? Oh wow.
So in the meantime, Atka had glaucoma and the glaucoma progressed. Now glaucoma is a disease where fluid builds up in the eye and it can become quite painful.
The rescue worked with veterinarians using medications to try and save her eyesight. Unfortunately, at the age of 2.5 months, they had to remove one eye. The disease did progress, and by the age of 5 months, they had to remove her second eye.
By the time she was 7 months old, we were then in a position where we wanted to adopt another dog. So I went on the website, I filled out the application, I said why I thought we would make a great home for Atka. And the rescue group okayed our adoption. And then right before we were to adopt her and take her in, I got cold feet.
Bill goes on to tell me they're an active family. After all, they like to go hiking, camping, and cross-country skiing.
And surely a blind dog that's not going to be fair to the dog.
Right.
To put it into that position.
Right.
And it's not going to be fair to us to burden us with a dog that's not going to be able to keep up with us.
Right.
So the rescue group came back, and in their wisdom, they said, just try it. Just give it a try. And so we brought Atka home at the age of 7 months. She was completely blind. She was not house trained.
Oh boy.
And we brought her home, and it was fascinating to watch her orient herself to her environment. She walked around the backyard twice.
Like the perimeter of the backyard?
The perimeter of the backyard twice, and you could see her very, very much mapping out where things were. You could literally see her counting out steps between boundaries.
Wow.
She went into the house, and she immediately, on her own, did 2 circuits of the house. And from that moment on, she had the house completely down. She was completely oriented to the yard and the house. And that has continued all through her life.
But as it turns out, not just mapping the yard or the house, Atka was mapping the latch on the baby gate. And, as huskies can be mischievous, she was planning escapes for her and her housemate.
She learned housebreaking very well.
That was going to be my next question.
Yes.
So housebreaking went okay with it. Was it any different compared to other dogs that you've housebroken?
It took a little bit longer with her. She had a few more accidents, some of which, of course, was our fault.
Right.
Not getting her out at appropriate times.
Right.
But she was housebroken, and then...
Okay, so living with a dog without sight isn't that big of a deal. Sounds pretty much like living with any other dog. But what about their lifestyle, their active lifestyle of camping and hiking? How did she adjust to that?
The concerns that I had about her not adapting to our lifestyle and not being mobile and not being able to keep up were completely unfounded. When we take her hiking, She goes down the trail the same as any normally sighted dog. We can put her on a retractable leash,
Uh-huh.
and she's not just feeling her way along and unsure of what she's
So
doing.
she's been pretty confident out on the trail. She goes confidently.
Yep, she's completely confident moving down the trail. If she's on a retractable leash, she's 15 feet out in front of us,
Leading everybody.
leading
As a
us
husky
down the
would.
path. She never bumps into anything.
Yeah.
She doesn't run into trees. She doesn't, run into rocks or stumble over things.
Right. So even though she didn't get a chance to map out a trail, the boundaries of a trail, she somehow understands where the trail is and how she gets over logs and how she negotiates turns.
Right, yeah, and
Interesting.
right, even when there are twists and turns in the trail, she moves perfectly through those sorts of obstacles.
Right.
And it's not even just in that sort of wild environment that she's functional, but when we walk around the neighborhood, she knows all the routes that we take. She knows just where to cross the street. When we take her into completely new places, maybe when we're camping, we're in a new city, we go to a shopping center that she's never seen before. When we open the door, she goes right out of the vehicle,
Without hesitation.
pulls us to the front door of a pet shop if we're going there to
Right.
buy her kibble or food. And she knows exactly where the pet shop is. She pulled us right to it. She goes right up to a store employee and sits in front of them and then begs for a treat.
So, so she clearly understands where the pet store is whenever you guys pull up to an area where you're going by a pet store, where there's a
Right.
pet store. And
Right.
she goes in. How do you think she knows about that pet store if you've never been there before?
The thing that people most often say to us is, well, surely her other senses have been heightened. Surely her sense of smell, her sense of hearing are more developed because she's blind.
Right.
I think that's a good idea, but I think there's another explanation, and that is that dogs don't use their sense of sight the way that we think they do. I think for them it's very, very much like the second or third or even fourth sight sense that they use. Their nose is so good that they can pick up all these odors. They can smell where a trail is when you're hiking in the
Right.
forest.
That's right. Yeah.
They can smell where all the other dogs are and where the dog food is if you take them to a pet shop.
Or
So-
where the pet shop is
Right, right.
compared to the parking lot.
So,
Yeah.
so I tell people that I think that her losing her sense of sight would be like us losing our sense of smell. If you lost your sense of smell, you could go about your day pretty normally because you don't really use your sense of smell to orient yourself.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the same case with her. She really doesn't need her sense of sight because she's got her sense of smell, she's got her sense of hearing, she's got touch, she's got whiskers. And so she gets along perfectly fine, even though she can't see.
Okay, so how does Lily treat Atka? Does she treat her any differently because she doesn't have sight?
A question we frequently get asked is, does Lily act as a seeing eye dog for Atka?
Right.
Does
Right.
Lily guide Atka? And no, Lily is actually usually right next to us or behind us. And Lily and Atka is the first one out front. She's got that husky drive. She's got that husky energy.
Being a husky, she's out ahead and she's leading you guys. And then you have the Bernese Mountain Dog, Lily, that stays with you, as
Right.
most Bernese would.
Well, we do have a command that we use with her.
You do, okay.
And we'll say step up if we come to a curb, or we'll say step down if it's going to be a situation where maybe we're going downstairs, just to alert her that there is that barrier there, because we don't want her knocking her feet into concrete objects. But most of the time, she really seems to know that those objects are there, and she just goes right up or down them.
Amazing. That's amazing. So she doesn't really struggle with that
No.
much. So it sounds to me like she gets along just fine out in the world and camping.
Really, it's remarkable just how normal she is.
Yeah.
And, I can't stress that enough. I went into this thinking I'd gotten in over my head.
Yeah.
It was, I opened my big mouth. I said I would adopt this dog. and I'm not prepared for it. I'm not the right person for this.
Right.
And what's incredible is just how normal she is. She loves to run, she loves to play. We've taken her on, camping trips back and forth across the United States. She adapts to whatever new environment she's in.
Right.
There's really no difference between her and what we think of as a normally sighted dog.
Yeah. So how do people respond when they see her? I mean, they see that she has no eyes. So what are the responses you get from people?
It's like traveling with a celebrity. She really sticks out when she's out in public, and people are immediately drawn to her
Yeah.
and immediately drawn to her story.
Yeah.
And everything that I've just told you, we run through every day when we're out in public. People
Wow.
want to know.
They want to know the whole story.
They want to know the whole thing. So often, though, people initially see her as an object of pity. And they think, oh, this is so sad. She's a blind dog. And it's really a great educational opportunity because, then we can have Atka go up and greet people and, and they get to see that she's just the same as any other dog.
I understand she's caught birds before, right?
Right.
As I had a husky who caught birds as well in the backyard.
She's got a very high prey drive. And in the backyard, she caught a bird. She caught a rabbit. She's caught mice. One day we were walking through a lawn, and all of a sudden she veered off to the side very purposefully and pounced. And out of the lawn, she pulled out a little baby snake that was 3 inches long.
Wow.
Now, how much odor and noise can a baby snake possibly make? And it was
Wow.
under the grass, so there was no way to see it, other than the fact that her senses are so acute
Yeah.
that she knew exactly where that was, and she just pulled it out.
So we know what it looks like when our dogs are stalking birds or wildlife in the backyard. But can a blind dog stalk the wildlife as well? What does that look like?
One day I was in the house and looking out into the backyard, and there was a bird sitting in the middle of the yard. And I saw Atka over in the corner of the yard go into a low stalk and start creeping up on that bird.
With her face oriented on the bird.
Face and focused on the bird, exactly tracking the bird's movements. And then she rushed the bird. The bird took off and flew up into the air. Atka leapt to intercept the bird.
Yep.
And she missed the bird by less than an inch.
Wow.
Now, this was after she'd already caught a bird previously. Right. So having seen her do that, then I really understood how she caught that first bird. It wasn't a fluke.
So how about bonding? So people, does she bond with you normally? She can't see you?
Yeah, that was something that I was initially concerned about when we got her too, is you're not going to be able to look into the dog's eyes. The dog isn't going to be able to look into our eyes. Are we going to develop a relationship with this dog? And our relationship with her is no different than any other dog we've ever had. She is completely bonded to us. She listens to us. She's very responsive to the commands.
She is.
And if we go and we sit down on a couch or a bed or something like that, she will hop up and be right with us. So
she's bonded.
Yep.
She's definitely bonded. So just like every other dog. So nothing different there either.
Correct.
And does she take any special medications in regards to her losing her eyes?
No. Once the eyes were removed, there's really nothing else that you need to do for something like glaucoma. So no, she doesn't have any other medications.
To finish up, what would you tell someone if they were thinking about adopting a dog that was blind and maybe they had some hesitations about it? What would be your advice to them?
I would say don't let that be the biggest barrier to getting a dog.
Good.
Really, you need to think about all the other things that are a part of a dog. Do I want to share my life with the dog? Do I want the responsibility of taking it for walks, getting it to vet visits? Do I have the time and energy to invest in this being that's now going to become part of my life?
Yes.
The blindness really was not a factor with Atka. That for as many concerns as I initially had, it was the least of the things, you know, of bringing her into our life.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me about her. She's a fabulous dog.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.